Our 2023 preview for the New England Patriots. Well, we start every one of these. My little bullet point here is what's the story, right? What's the story with this team? What do you think the story is with the New England Patriots? Because this is hard for me to pin down.
I said, how is this chapter of the Patriot Way going to be written? Like that's what the story is. I guess it's the offensive turnover at the staff wise. It's like this new kind of defense that's has a little different flavor than maybe what they've shown before. I don't know what the story really is. I think it's just maybe like talking to Mac Jones again might be a good start. I think talking, not just us talking about him, but it's anyone on that staff talking to him and acknowledging that he exists. I think that is maybe the story of the season, or maybe a lingering question I have going into this season. I really don't know though.
It kind of feels to me like, all right, we have a really good defense. We're probably going to have a really good defense. They finished first in weighted defensive DVOA. We can talk about the schedule and how much better it is this year, all that kind of stuff. But I think the defense has a chance to be really good. So if we can be a top 5 defense and we can go from being a punchline on offense, let's call it what it is. They were a punchline on offense last year, to being a slightly above average offense. This is a top 10 offense 2 years ago. Top 10. Mac Jones was like a totally reasonable quarterback 2 years ago. So bringing in Bill O'Brien can get you to respectability. If you're the 14th best offense in the league with the 5th best defense, that to me is the story of the Patriots. But what is that? In this AFC East, in this AFC, what is that? Maybe you sneak into a wild card spot if some bad shit happens to the other teams in the division. It just even feels like the best case scenario for this team is still somewhat underwhelming.
Like they can get to the battle, but then they just have no firepower. Like as soon as the dance starts, as soon as the playoffs start, they just have nothing to fire at these other teams. You got to think who they go against in that AFC playoffs. So everybody else has just got like super weapons, Death Stars on offense, especially at the quarterback position. So it's like,
so let's transition to that. Let's talk about the offense then, because my biggest thing here, there's a few different things that we can dig into. The weapons is not a bad place to start. The receiving group just leaves you so cold. Okay. It's to the comparison I was going to make is it's like a knockoff purse. Like when you see it from far away, it all makes sense. Like Devontae Parker's this like big body outside the numbers contested catch guy. They've got a slot guy in Juju. They've got some juice with Tyquan Thornton theoretically. Kendrick Bourne is kind of that third down possession type guy. They've got a receiving tight end in Gesicki. Hunter Henry's fairly well rounded. Like all the archetypes are there, but like there's a button missing, or like the zipper is a little bit askew. Like that's how it feels. When you actually start to look at it up close, you realize how much more disappointing it is than the real version. Like that's what this receiving group feels like to me.
It's like those movies that come out that those movie studios make really cheap that to like trick grandmas that are buying movies. So it's like, it's not Transformers, but it's like Battleformers, and then grandma that's going to buy a movie for little Johnny is like, oh,
and that actually tracks because the budget on those is very low. This team is 29th in cap spending on offense. And even that number is misleading because about a fifth of that is being spent on Hunter Henry, who's making $15 million. The second most expensive piece on their offense this year is Jonnu Smith, who's not on the team.
That's ridiculous.
He has like a $12 million dead cap.
The remnants of Bill Belichick's free agency splurge.
The rest of the offense is the remnants of the drafting. Because my question when I look at this group is, how do you get here?
Right.
Like, how is this the group that you end up with? And it's actually not that hard to track it. 2017, they traded a first-round pick for Brandon Cooks. So that's out the window. Brandon Cooks was good for them. His team won a Super Bowl, whatever. But that's a piece you don't have down the road. Right. They traded a second-round pick. They moved down from the second to the third round to get Coney Ealy in the 2018 draft. The pick that ended up being was Taylor Moton. Was the pick that they didn't get. So one more potential offensive piece off the board. Coney Ealy did nothing for them. Isaiah Wynn and Sony Michel in the first round. N'Keal Harry in the first round. They traded a second-round pick for Mohamed Sanu.
I couldn't wait for you to get to that one. That is something that happened.
And now we get to Tyquan Thornton. So look at all of that draft capital, either spent on guys that are no longer on the roster that were mildly productive when they were here, or just flamed out. That's how you get to this place where you just have no pieces on offense. You're building it out of 2s and 3s at pretty much every single spot because of the swings and misses that they've had. So even in an optimistic case where Bill O'Brien is coming in and raising this thing from the dead, you still have this level of talent that they've been left with because of some of the misses they've had along the way as they've tried to build this group.
And
so
even
it's like, all right, so what is this then?
Yeah, and even where they're at now, okay, so Devontae Parker has a bigger role than you would ever think for an offense, and signing Juju Smith, Smith-Schuster, and everything, and even Tyquan Thornton, who, like you said, was a vertical guy, and he's a vertical guy. I mean, that's what he is. He's a world-class speed guy.
They drafted him in the second round because he ran a 4.2 something.
Yeah, I know. I had like a 4th round grade on him. That was still an overdraft, but I like him. But none of those skill sets really match with Mac Jones. Like to me, Mac Jones is a BB thrower where it's like underneath yak guys. Like I want to see him in a Shanahan offense, and it's like maybe some people did too.
Yeah,
I want him ball out 1, 2, 3, ball out, get it to a yak guy because he's supremely accurate. Like he's extremely accurate.
Even last year when it was all falling apart, the ball was still going where he wanted it to go.
He still makes a throw or two that is truly exceptional. Like he can layer throws. Like he can put touch and get it over guys. He knows what his arm is. He's the average arm strength at best, but he has great timing and great accuracy. And it's like, but they built the offense more like Justin Fields is the quarterback, like where it's big ball winners and vertical guys, and the quarterback's gonna be spraying it. So we need guys with big catching range. It's like, oh no, it's like, so even just right there, the quarterback with pass catchers, there's the synergy is way off. Last year too, with just god awful play calling and play design, even like, I mean, they ran standard stuff, but it was just like no feel. And you could tell nothing was connected. The run game with the play action game, the pass protection was just bad. Like, I mean, as far as just the rules, like they put so much on Mac Jones's plate and then they treat him like shit, which is just like, I still don't get. Like, it's just, there's so much disconnect there. But like last year,
it is a masterclass in how to mismanage the development of your young quarterback. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Promised, yes, his ceiling's not that high, but he still had promises like a solid to good starter. Yeah, it never made any sense whatsoever. And last year, Mac Jones was the worst quarterback by I think success rate and EPA against the blitz. And if you just look at the exact
same stat, he was dead last.
And if you look at their target chart, it's hilarious. It's all goes. Like just stuff on the outside, which is
lack of a plan, just a total lack of a plan for those situations.
That was not a modern offense. It was not
almost twice as bad against the blitz as any other quarterback in the league. That is a lack of a plan.
That's a structure.
You have no plan. That is a structural issue.
Yep.
And so this leads to my question: what does this offense look like with Bill O'Brien? Like, what is a Bill O'Brien NFL offense in 2023? Because he goes to Alabama for 2 years. Like that, they live in that RPO world down there that Mac Jones was very good at, obviously.
Yes.
They made him a 1st round pick. So what does this actually look like with Bill O'Brien at this stage of his coaching career with Mac Jones at quarterback?
I don't know.
I don't mean either.
Even his Bama offense was very just like NFL standard, like, a lot of choice routes, a lot of angle routes, Jahmyr Gibbs, curl flats. Like there wasn't anything crazy. Drive, which is crosser and a dig. He ran a lot of standard concepts. So it's not like where you come in where I'm like, man, check out. It's not like Lincoln Riley's coming into BOC and you're like, whoa, wait till you see this shit, guys. It's it's Bill O'Brien. It's Billy O. He's like, he's the Andy Dalton line for offensive coordinators. Like that's kind of what he is. I mean, that's
that's so much better than what they had last year.
Better.
That's the optimistic case.
That's exactly it. And I'm glad you brought up the RPO point because I really want to say I try to find just one concrete stat on this. RPO stats are always kind of hazy, but it's no matter how you look at it, they're bottom 10 in RPOs last year. And that is just, again, not understanding what your quarterback is really good at. Like that's what made him a 1st round pick. Like you said, watching him throw to those Alabama receivers was amazing. Throwing these corners and sails and over routes and stuff down the field that was still RPO reads. And he was able to just do it time and time again, but they just didn't run it. And so it's just all these things, like even shotgun rate, like they went from Mac Jones's rookie year with Josh McDaniels last year as coordinator. They were shotgun about a little less than half the time. Last year was almost 70% of the time. And again, it's like, because they had no cohesion. If they're in the shotgun, they're passing. If they're under center, they're running, as opposed to mixing and merging those worlds together. So I at least know Bill O'Brien can do that. Like at least do that, which some semblance of competency is going to help out so much, even if it's just averageness.
You'd hope that the running game and the offensive line is better as well.
Yeah.
They brought in Adrian Clem as their offensive line coach. He was the Steelers assistant offensive line coach for a couple of years. He was at Oregon. So him replacing Matt Patricia, they've got Ramondre Stevenson back there who's a nice player. They signed Zeke, which, kind of whatever at this stage. But I think that has a chance to be better. The line is, again, kind of weirdly meh. Like Michael Onwenu was a really good player at guard, but he's hurt right now. Cole Strange is banged up. Riley Reif is the right tackle for this team right now. It's between him and like Connor McDermott to play right tackle. So just one other area where like this is the group.
I know.
Like, this is what we're doing here.
Trent Brown's still there. He's still around somehow, still motivated.
I expect that group to play better and expect the offense to be better overall. But again, it's just a group when you look at it in totality, it's hard to get excited about. That's it.
Even like a guy like Cole Strange, it's like he came along last year. He was up and down, but there was flashes. Like he's gonna be fine, but then he's hurt. And like it's like just like there's nothing you could just hang your hat on. That's what this offense feels like. There's just nothing you really just hang your hat on, and feel good about. Stevenson might be the guy that you do feel good about. Like they're going to thump you. Like between him,
he's a good player. He is a good player. He does a lot of things well. He's a dynamic pass catcher when given the opportunity.
Great
for a guy that big. Yeah. So I'd be excited to watch him. But other than that, it's in the skill position group. It's not really there.
One line just to land us. The goal for them this year is average. That's it.
Yeah,
that's
I think that's what it should be.
That's a huge win.
Biggest question about the Patriots defense this year. What do you got for me?
I just want to figure out what, much like maybe the McDermott, Leslie Frazier's conversation, I want to see what dials they turned this year. They blitzed less frequently last year. The Belichicks, I don't know if it's Steve or Bill or Mayo, like Belichick's with a topping of Mayo. Like that, I really don't know who to say here, but they blitzed less frequent or less often last year, going from nearly a third of the time they used to blitz in 2019 to just about 20% last year, league average-ish. They quadrupled the amount of quarters they ran. They ran less man coverage than ever before that I can ever remember. Even looking at the numbers, they're 43% man coverage in 2019, just a quarter of the time last year. That could be some of the corners that they had, but I also do think it's a little bit of a shifting of the formula that they want to get to, or the variables they want to get to.
It's indicative of kind of the shifts around the league, right? It's like them keeping track and keeping up with what the NFL meta looks like defensively, which I think is a good
really
thing
well.
In this case.
And doing it really well. Like, they
were fantastic in quarters last year. We talked about this on the defense show. They were the best team in the league when they ran quarters last season.
The best quarters teams were them and like the Titans, who are not like the quarters guys. Like it's just like this random defenses were the ones that are really good at it, which is so funny. But yeah, just even speaking of that, cover zero, they went from 10% to 2%. Like they just they changed their formula a little bit. I want to know if that was just because of the personnel last year, the meta, like you talked about, a little bit of combination of those two things. So I just want to see what the 2023 version of this can be, because I think we both think it's going to be an awesome defense. So how they scheme it up will be really interesting.
You guys can go listen to the top 10 defensive show that we did if you want to hear some more about just like the nuts and bolts of the defense. Yeah. I'm really bullish on it. I just think at every level they have real players. The defensive front is so good. It's one of the reasons they didn't have to blitz as much, because Josh Uche, who we'll talk about, some of the interior players that they have. It's just a really good group. Matt Judon. And then in the secondary, they were deep, they were flexible, they played more dime than any other team in the league. So I feel really good about the players. The thing we did not bring up on that show at all, their schedule is horrendous. They have the hardest perceived and projected schedule of passers in the NFL next year. So last season, according to Football Outsiders, they had the 7th easiest schedule of opponent offenses. They played 2 games against Zach Wilson.
I was just going to say that.
they had a Bridgewater, Skylar Thompson game, Colt McCoy, Mitchell Trubisky. Some people, when they've been doing this list, have been putting Jacoby Brissett and Jared Goff on this list. That's revisionist history. Those offenses were good, and the Patriots put them in a fucking body bag.
Like they crushed the Lions.
Yes,
remember that?
And the Browns. They've beat the shit out of the Browns a couple times over the last few years. They've given the Browns a handful. So even though on paper maybe the quarterbacks aren't stellar across the board, they still had some really good performances against really good offenses. That being said, this year, Jalen Hurts, Dolphins ×2, Aaron Rodgers ×2, Josh Allen ×2, Dak, Herbert, Mahomes.
It's 11 of their 17 games. That's that.
It's a lot. It's a lot. They get the Steelers, they get the Raiders, they play against the Saints, who like the Saints offense might be pretty good.
Right.
So it's going to be tough. We'll see what the Broncos are. On paper, the Broncos were terrible last year, but could they be better? Yeah. So it is a much tougher slate. That to me is the biggest question. Like there are some personnel things to consider. Devin McCourty's gone. What's Christian Gonzalez going to look like if he's thrust into a starting role? But I feel so good about the rest of the personnel and the people coaching this team that to me, it's more about who they're playing against, not who they are, if that makes sense.
They might get out Jimmy and Jode as opposed to, out schemed,
like that. I still feel like their personnel can go toe to toe with a lot of different teams. They've got
front.
Yes. They've got
Like,
so many bodies.
You mentioned 4 games against Aaron Rodgers and the Dolphins, and really even the Bills, and so 6 games with Josh Allen. But now think of those offensive lines versus this defensive line. So it's like if anyone's going to affect those quarterbacks, this is how you want to do it. Like, it's just a bunch of these guys that they can just trot out there, play after play after play, just beating you up.
Biggest X factor for the New England Patriots this season. Who do you got?
It's the Mac Jones, Bill O'Brien experience and their relationship. Like that's it. I think if Bill O'Brien gets back to what even rookie level Mac Jones, who was perfectly the league average quarterback in every statistic that you look at, which is very encouraging for a rookie, getting back to that, rekindling that a little bit, just the relationship, his confidence, and getting him back to where I think he can be at, and just Bill O'Brien in general. So that I think that relationship and will be huge and decide a lot this season.
I got Christian Gonzalez. He stepping in potentially as a starting corner as a rookie because Jack Jones's legal situation is up in the air. So if they do have to rely on him as a starter from day one, what does that end up looking like? Tons of traits, theoretically super high ceiling. It is. Jalen Mills is still there. Yep. A useful player. Adrian Phillips now kind of steps into more of a starting role because Devin McCourty's gone. But they drafted Marty Mapu from Sacramento State in the 3rd round, who can play a bunch of different positions potentially. Jelani Tavai is like a flexible piece for them. It's a fascinating defense. I think they have a chance to be really, really good on that side of the ball. But Gonzalez is one of those things I think that could tie it all together potentially.
And he's a different. I love your shout out here. He's just a different flavor of corner that they even have right now.
Absolutely.
Like those guys are fat and like just getting this.
They got these tiny guys.
Yeah, they got a bunch of tiny speed guys. And now they got some length there. So again, like maybe to get more back into the man and throw that Christian Gonzalez at some receivers and stuff. So yeah, just an interesting mix of guys. Really fun. And Kyle Duggar, of course.
Of course.
Gotta give him a shout out.
I think Kyle Duggar was probably one of your breakout guys last year. So who is your breakout candidate for this year's Patriots?
It's Josh Uche, and he finally had a healthy season, and boy, wow, he was one of the best pass rushers in the entire league on a per snap basis last year. Far and away the leader in the entire NFL in pressure rate, over 21% of his pass rushes results in a pressure. Put it in perspective, Micah Parsons was 2nd in the NFL at 19%, and Nick Bosa was 3rd at 18.8%. He rushed the passer. So this is all just the number right here. Rushed the passer 266 times last year. He is a true designated pass rusher, old school, only coming down on 2nd and long and 3rd down because he is terrible against the run. So I'll throw that out there. Terrible against the run. He's there to get after the quarterback. So 266 pass rush snaps. Over 50 of those result in a pressure. That's like just 1 out of 5. He's just on the field. That's it. And to put that all in perspective, just to tie a bow on this. So I can look back to these numbers in True Media to 2019. Only one other player since 2019 had a pass rush pressure rate of higher than 20%. That was Micah Parsons' rookie year. And the other players that have one that was higher than 17%. This is the list of names. So Uche's 1. Then it's Parsons, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, Rashawn Gary, Max Crosby, Zadarius Smith, Aaron Donald, Trey Hendrickson, J.J. Watt, Von Miller, and Brandon Graham, and Josh Uche. So
he was awesome last year.
This guy can bring it.
I think a little bit bigger and stronger than he'd been coming into the league. And again, the health was one of the biggest things. He was really fun to watch last season. And you combine his skill set, which is more speed, a little bit bendier, with some of the bullies that they have, and it all really does work well together.
It's great. I know. I love. We talk about synergy with pass catchers, synergy with pass rushers. That's what the Patriots have, and it's awesome.
Speaking of bullies, my guy, I was going to go with Josh Uche, but I'm going to go with Keon White, who's their 2nd round pick. Just big, strong. He played really well in that preseason debut. Just one more of those like 285-pound ass kickers that this team loves. He makes perfect sense for who they are and what they want to be defensively. So excited to see him just in the mix of all of those interior guys that they have.
Glad you shouted him out because he looked great in the first preseason game. So I'm excited to watch him this year. He's perfect for that defense.
What does success look like for the 2023 Patriots?
I don't know. I said making the playoffs. That's it. Just making the playoffs.
Enough. I honestly think that's
more than enough.
In this division, that is real success.
Yeah. Playing, and you brought up the quarterbacks, but just overall, they're playing the hardest strength of schedule in the NFL this year. Just overall. Like easily. So if they make the playoffs, that's a tip of the cap to what this team did. And probably they got some out of Mac Jones, which would be great.